The room grew still as she made her way to Jesus. She stumbled through the tears that made her blind. She felt such shame. Some spoke in anger, heard folks whisper, "There's no place here for her kind." Still on she came through the shame that flushed her face, till at last she knelt before his feet. And though she spoke no words, everything she said was heard as she poured her love for the master from her box of alabaster. I've come to pour my praise on him like oil from Mary's alabaster box. Don't be angry if I wash his feet with my tears and I dry them with my hair. You were there the night he found me. You did not feel what I felt when he wrapped his loving arms around me. And you don't know the cost of the oil in my alabaster box. Hallelujah. Lord, I thank you. I thank you for this moment. I thank you for this Overflow Christian Center, Father. I thank you for Jesus, the sacrifice. I thank you, Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Holy Spirit.
I thank you, Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Holy Spirit.
I'm grateful that you speak through my lips, Father, that it not be me at all, but all of you. In Jesus' name, amen. So, I kept listening to that song this morning. It's a song that I really love because it's a song that I can really relate to. And they were indignant. It says that they were indignant in Matthew 26. They were indignant when she poured that oil, that expensive oil, right? Because it was supposed to be, why didn't she use it for the poor? But I think she was poor in spirit. She was somebody quite broken, and so I can relate. And people, like the song says, you weren't there. You don't know. People walk around and they smile, right? And we wear so many masks, and they had the nerve to be indignant. People will be offended. They will persecute. And the closer and closer that you get, those that are at times you think are the ones that will love you and support, and just like Jesus, right? Maybe those won't be the ones, but there's always a place. He has a way of making those connections, of aligning us and putting us in those places. And I know that I am here, not by accident, here at Overflow Christian Center, that I am, that on April 24th, 2009, that I was reassured of my salvation at Crenshaw Christian Center, that in June of 2009, that I opted to become a member. I chose to become a member of that church. That I took the right hand of fellowship in November of 2009. And I went into Helps Ministry in the following year in 2010. Now, I was still walking. These were choices that I was making. It's not because I was there, and it's not because I've arrived now. Because it's a constant thing, it's a process. She had to have felt some kind of way as she's walking in there. She had to have known. There had to be something, and it had to be so difficult to do that, to approach, just like when we decide to say that we're giving our lives to Christ. And I kept on hearing, who do you think you are? And I put it in capital letters here in my iPad. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? And I remember growing up, and I grew up in Brooklyn, and I'm sure anywhere you come from, she thinks she all that. Right? She thinks she all that. I don't even think they knew what they were talking about, what they meant. It was just something people said. She thinks she's all that. But who do you think you are? And I'm sure, even with Jesus, who does he think he is? Emerge is a word that I've been carrying that word, emerge, for a couple of years now. And it means to move out or away from something and come into view, to become apparent, important, prominent. The Latin root emergere means bring to light, to bring to light. And that's the part that really struck me, bring to light. And we know who the light of the world is. Because I didn't want to come into view. I had enough, at work, being somebody who sometimes you're not so much liked. So to come to church and to, come into that place, I wanted to sit somewhere quietly, because at that time, it was all about me, because I was so broken. And in that brokenness, right, I felt, in my mind, I tell people when they ask me about my experience when I arrived at Crenshaw, I always tell them that in my mind, I saw myself practically crawling up those steps into that place because of what I was dealing with, what they couldn't see behind that smile, behind the figure of authority, because people knew I'm in law enforcement. And so to bring to light, in conversation, it was brought to my attention that emerge is the root word for emergency, an unforeseen occurrence requiring immediate attention. There is a sense of urgency, and I can relate well to this as I have a background in law enforcement, like we already know. Immediate, urgent matters call for a sense of urgency. So to emerge, we have to come to light, because we already see the state of the world. And I'm looking at what's going on in Puerto Rico, and I have family there. And I get a little bit upset. And I almost said something on social media the other day, because I keep on seeing they're calling for salsa bands and all of these things, and people want to be entertained in order to give to the cause. I'm like, you have to be entertained? You're calling for salsa bands? And I'm gonna keep it real. Puerto Rico, I think we had enough salsa dancing. I think we've had enough of the witchcraft, what we call brujeria in Puerto Rico, where it used to be a very, very, a place where they really believed in God, the God of the Bible, as Pastor always is sure to, let's clear that up. And so that island has been so riddled. And I see this, and then I saw one post where people were in a big circle praying. And then I saw a post where a woman said, and I just had to snap to look at it again, where she said that she was in such dire straits, and I'm not quoting her exactly, but she said it had been 20 years. She said, I just knelt down and started praying and calling on God. She said it had been 20 years since I did that. Wow. And so I'm looking at it, and I'm seeing all of this, and I'm starting to get a little unsettled, because I want to say, Puerto Rico, what you need is to come back to Christ, and what you need is to put down all that other stuff that quite obviously isn't working. It ain't working to carry those things. I see people, their bags are weighed down with idols and things and the beads, and they're praying, and it's a certain systematic thing that they do, and it's a lot. You don't need all the altars, you don't need all that stuff, and I want to scream and say, that's not what we need. And people are dying. Actually, one of the posts said that people are actually killing themselves over there in Puerto Rico because they don't know what to do. It's so desperate right now, the times, and they're not used to that. It's not a place, it's not a third world country where preparation, you know what I mean, where they prepare a certain way. And so that's what's happening right now in my heart. You know, in my heart, I just want to say that's not what we need. You need to come back to Christ, and that's not in my notes. But anyway, in that conversation, where it was brought to my attention about emerge, and that root word, emergency, and that is the state of the world, and we are what the world needs because we hold answers. And then I heard prepare right, emerge powerful. To prep. Today's assignment is one that I did not have a lot of time to prepare for, like at all. And then so much happened after I got my deployment, my charge, my orders, my marching orders, like they say. Once I received those, it seemed like all hell broke loose even more after that. Yesterday was something. And this is not a sorry moment, but a lot happened, and I had to go out and get Nala in the weather that we had, and it was just so much. And so my prep time was cut even shorter, and I started to get, in all honesty, frustrated. And then I started thinking about, like I said before, my background in law enforcement, and how when we were called to those jobs, we didn't have time. It was in that moment when we would get a call from the 911 operator, right? Telling us where to respond, what she received, whatever information it was. And in that moment, you had to decide, and I was usually a driver, you know, and the route you're gonna take, what you're gonna do when you get there, and you had to be up here, you had to use this. You know, you had your law, you had all of these things, but that wisdom, you needed that wisdom. Now, understand that back then in those days, I wasn't, like I said, I told you, 2009, because I started reflecting on the past decade, the past decade of my life and last year, and so much has changed, and so many disappointments, so many, so much, there's been a lot of positive as well as so much negative. But it's all working together for my good. Although at times I don't see it. And like I said, I was frustrated because I kept saying I wanted to prepare right for this. For today, I didn't want to come up and just say anything, because I don't have a say anything kind of pastor, and I'm not in a say anything kind of place. Amen. So I can't get away with that. So I did what I had to do. I had to take care of Nala and do, and just prioritize. And then I sat down and sleep is like, it's a luxury at times. So I didn't have a lot of time to prepare. However, in 2 Timothy 3:16-17, it states that all scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, that the man of God may be complete, thoroughly equipped for every good work. With that, in 2 Timothy 4:1-2, it states, I charge you therefore before God and the Lord Jesus Christ, who will judge the living and the dead at his appearing and his kingdom. Preach the word. Be ready in season and out of season. Convince, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and teaching. In verse 7 it says, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. 2 Timothy was Paul's last written communication. He was Timothy's mentor and was giving final lessons, and these are extended to us. And I received them for myself because I hadn't looked at that in such, I won't even begin to say how I came to it, but we already know. Thank you, Holy Spirit. And thank you, Lord, because I sure did not know the secret. I didn't know the structure. I didn't know the sequence in it. In season and out of season. And again, I thought about my time at NYPD because I did 6 months in the academy. And those 6 months in the academy, along with certain, when I came out as a rookie and the different, little extensive training we get, that had to be enough to respond to those emergencies.
Amen.
They had to be enough because it meant life or death at times. It had to be enough, the training. So I have always had to go back to the training, and we are being trained.
Amen.
And he said he fought the good fight of faith, and we are definitely fighting. Because fights are not usually good. I don't know about anybody else, but I had a few in my days, in my younger days, and those weren't no good fights, because I know plenty of times it was like, anybody want to break this up? I don't know. Nobody's trying to, but this is the good fight of faith. And so I think of those days in the police academy, and it's a place I didn't even want to be. To become an officer charged with protecting and serving a people who often didn't like me or want me there, although they called me. That wasn't my dream, but there was a cause. And I had a son who was a year old at the time. So I was challenged to stay in formation and run in cadence with my fellow recruits. And in the beginning, I failed 6 times to keep up, to stay in cadence. I had to work harder to stay in the game, and then I made it through that. And then I had to run an obstacle course and get over a wall that became the realest of obstacles, and that caused me to work harder to push. Or it will cost me my position in that company, 9276. That was my company, because we were considered one. There was no room for laziness, and I know in the Bible there's several mentions of laziness, being lazy. So there was no room for that, because they accepted no excuses. No excuses. I graduated at the age of 21. I don't know if some of you remember 21, but 21, I had a son. I'm a brand new cop. They talking about go out there, protect and serve. And there wasn't much fanfare from my loved ones. It was just something I had to do. It's like I was just moving. I was moving, and I say I had to move with God. I had to move because that's all I had. Because I needed that for my son. I needed that for that honest life. I needed that to, what I didn't know was to take me into the next thing. And I did not want to be there. I did not. Thank you. So at 21, I surrendered what I thought life should be and found that in the streets of New York City, there were even greater causes. I worked those streets and I found purpose greater than, I think I want to stay up here, huh? I'll do it. So, purpose greater than me, a young mother, an officer, and then a wife. The heck did I know about being somebody's wife? I didn't even know what marriage was supposed to be or what things were supposed to look like. I had no idea that God was even supposed to be in it. I mean, just saying. I'm the girl I'm going to keep it real, especially for our young folk. I just said I had a son. I wasn't married yet. My son was 1. I went through the academy. I pushed to get through that. When I came out of the academy, so at 92, so in 93, January of 93, I was in the precinct in Bed-Stuy. A couple of months later, I found out that all that time I had been pregnant with my daughter. Because I was just different. One of the people that just like, what you mean? Everything functioned, everything was normal, but obviously it was not. And so I'm a rookie cop in a new apartment with this little boy, with homeboy. I couldn't call him homeboy because we're not married anymore. We good, but we're just not. Yeah. And then my daughter was coming. And so wouldn't it be a good idea to get married? Just saying. But again, that's where I was. It was where I was here, and it was where I was here. I had nothing else really I didn't have what you guys have. And what some of you have had for a long time. And so with that, again, I was moving, just I was just moving and doing what I thought was right. So by October of 93, I was married, and by November of 93, I had 2 children. And remember the age now. I knew nothing about those things that I was stepping into, and I didn't even want to be a police officer. So I think of David, a young boy working the field. In 1 Samuel 17:29, he asked, "Is there not a cause? Is there not a cause?" So I went there. You know, we know he was out in the field, and his brother, the whole Goliath piece, and everybody was shook, and and so that fear, they had that whole fear factor thing happening, and David was like, I'll go, I'll do it. And it says, one of the brothers said, "I know your pride and the insolence of your heart, for you have come down just to see the battle." Now we know he went to give them something to eat and everything. He was taking his orders. I'll go, this and that, I'm feeding sheep, I'm fighting with these creatures out there and all that type of stuff. What have I done now? Is there not a cause? And I kept thinking about that. And so he goes, and we know that he beat old Goliath. But the thing I found so interesting was, when Saul, now they needed somebody to go. He's willing to go, but aren't you just a youth? And now thinking back at now I'm 48, I sure was still a youth. I was still so young. And I'm going out there and taking on things, and because I took an oath to protect and serve, and things that I wasn't ready for. But I was stepping into it. And now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't as bold as David. It wasn't no like, oh man, I'm good, I'm gonna do. No, like I said, I didn't want to do it. In fear, I did my job most nights. Because what I knew was that I had to get home to my children. So my training, my cause, right? The tools that I was given by NYPD, the weapons. Use these things, go out there, and you can get the job done. And I'm sure, and it goes on to read that Saul tried to give him the armor and all of these things, and David was like, nah, this ain't, it doesn't fit me. And when we get fitted for our vests, for those things that are supposed to protect us from bullets and things. We get fitted for those. Everything that we get is fitted for us. And yet in Ephesians 6, it's like a one-size-fits-all armor that we have in God. Now I'm with the marshals at the courthouse, and they gave me a gun even more powerful than the one I had in NYPD. But when I'm there, we're dealing a lot with mentally challenged people that are coming in for different things. But when I'm there, it's funny how, because I know I'm not just going to go around shooting people. As powerful as that gun is, you got to have, right? There's got to be a real reason why you're pulling that thing out. So people have to believe that I am in charge. People have to believe that I am in authority. Because if they don't believe it, they're not going to listen. I heard it said that when the streets know, and I heard some cops, this was on a TV show, and I said, it's true, because we used to walk around like, hey, you going to listen to us? When the streets know that we're running it, that's when we're running it. But they got to believe it. That's right. Just like we got to believe it. We have to believe that this word is real. We have to believe that the power and the authority that we've been given is real. We have to believe that we don't have a spirit of fear. We walk, right? Power, love, sound mind. Interesting, that sound mind. Because I walked around without a sound mind for so long. Because that girl battled depression. That girl battled suicide, oppression, bullying. That girl battled a whole lot. So I didn't have a sound mind. I walked in a certain level of authority, a certain power that was given to me by the city of New York. But outside of that, I didn't had no sound mind. That love, I didn't know what love was. What love? I thought I did. And I grew up in dysfunction. So how could I define love? I heard of Jesus. I went to church. Now you gotta understand, I was in Catholic church all the time. I was a daughter of Mary. I served in the church. And I'm grateful for that serving, because it's in servitude that I found a lot of what I'm purposed to do. But it was so incomplete. Because if this isn't right, if you're not getting, that's why it's important what we say to our children, because words are so powerful. What we say to ourselves. So that power, although, again, it was limited, because in the authority of NYPD, it was limited. So here it reads that when a leader practices the law of victory, this is just a little tidbit from the Bible I use, it impacts more than the leader, it affects everyone around him. David, in this battle with Goliath, practiced the law. He transformed the once paralyzed Israelite soldiers into a force capable of defeating the invincible Philistine army. He did it, his perspective differed from others. We know his perspective was different, because he believed, he didn't see what they saw. He believed, I could get it done. His methods differed. He didn't use the same, he didn't even want to use the same weapons. His conviction was different. His motives were different. His vision was different. He had experience, like he already was out there doing some of them things. Although, right, as a young boy, he was out there in them fields. His attitude was different. And so I kept thinking about Jesus when you would hear that they were offended at him. And even just a couple of weeks ago, just last week, because I was in Hilton Head for a women in leadership for this retreat and different things that I did there and I had to do there. And for a moment, because they call me, and the other thing is I didn't give myself the name Dr. Cece. Let me clear that up. I didn't give myself that name. And it was something that truly I would cringe a little bit each time, because I just, you want to be normal. You want to be normal. And so, just like I didn't give myself the title of detective at the job. I didn't give myself the different things that have come. It's been God. And when you're moving, I talked about cadence and formation in the company. And when you're moving in cadence with God, when you're in formation and you stay in formation. And let me just say that I'm not saying that I am perfect, that I am all that. I serve an all that God. Let me clear that up. Because anything that I have done thus far, God did it. I'm just stepping into it. So we have to step into it. I had somebody say that they sent out their book that they wrote. They told me that and I'm so excited about that. And the different things that people are doing here, but you gotta step into it, because the thing about it is, I said I didn't want to be a police officer, but it was not about me. I said I had a cause, so it was about my children, but then it was also about what God already knew I was gonna do while I was there. Because I had no idea. And they put me in different places that I didn't request. And I did them very much afraid. When I was running up against these young kids in the street, and you listen, it's one thing you're talking about, okay, a crime was committed, this is the law, right? It's black and white, this is the law, crime is committed, you arrest them, they go, right? But when you're talking about, I gotta try to now convince them, number one, that we the good cops. Number two, come and hang with us. Number three, to try to change them so that they don't die out in them streets, so that they don't go to prison. And I'm saying, well, how am I gonna do that? I barely want to talk to 5 people in the room. But I kept moving, whether it was just like when I was answering the radio runs. When they telling me a man with a gun, or we had shots fired, or we had, let me tell you, you see a whole lot, you hear a whole lot, you function, you move differently, you see and you hear differently from other people, but don't we also, as Christians? What I realize more and more is that with the Holy Spirit, with the direction, you know, with the favor that comes from walking in the blessings of God, when it's, I promise you, even just the other day, I'm sitting in my station, waiting for the next person. I'm working with somebody, and he's like, can I talk to you for a minute? And it's almost like I had a little thing, like, I'm in, you can talk to me. And I'm just like, okay, and like Pastor said, and I didn't ask for that. And I didn't get to, again, because my prep time was so, but there was a part where Jesus, when John was, and Jesus was, he wanted to go, like, let me go, but this is my friend. I love him. I want to go, and please let me just be alone for it. They ain't leave him alone. As much as at times they were offended at him, as much as they really like, oh, come on, get out of here, they needed him. Yeah. And he still, again, because I love the posture, you know, of Jesus. I always look at it like, you know, you walk in the street, you know how you walk in the street. I used to live in Brownsville, and I lived on New Lot, and I used to go to the corner store, and they would be out there, you know, rolling the thing, and it'd be a lot of them. And I would have to, I'm going to the store, okay? I'm going to the store. So it was like, excuse me, pardon me, you know, you got to walk in a certain, right? And then you go in, and you like, well, I sure hope none of them say nothing when I come out. Then I got to come out the store. But you still got to walk in that level of like, boldness. Absolutely. And sometimes you just, you faking it till you make it, right? Because you know you gotta move. And so I come out the store like, all right, I'm come on, excuse me, pardon me, all right, how you doing? Good, all right, well, and there's a certain thing, a certain posture, a certain way and I just picture Jesus doing that. Like when they was talking about they're gonna throw him over something, or they're gonna do this or that, he like, I'll see you later, okay? And you know, and the whole wiping the feet and stuff, and I know a lot of times we have to walk like that. You know, at work, I'm dealing with a certain level of, I don't want to call it persecution directly, but there are some things that are going on behind the scenes. And the other day I was in the break room just by myself, and I was just preparing, and I put on one of the stations, a Christian station, and somebody was ministering. Just as I was preparing my stuff, I wasn't going to be there long. And somebody walks in and he goes, you can see he's uncomfortable. And he says, you going to be watching this God thing? You going to be, I said, I'm always watching God things. I said, but you okay? Yeah, I just, you know, you don't want to watch Fox News, right? Because they be having that Fox News on and all this depressing, all this stuff there. I said, no, I'm always watching God things. But however, I'm almost done here. But he was so like off balance. But I said, you know what? It's all right. Because, yeah, that's who I am. And so, in as much as maybe it'll, right, throw you off a little bit, it's actually something that you need. So, you know, and so again, they know who I am. So, Chad is here. So, all right. So, sorry, y'all. Let me go here again. Pastor. These glasses got to go, Pastor. all right. So, forgive me, y'all. Forgive me for this. Okay. So, in Luke 4:18. Well, Luke 4:16. So he came to Nazareth where he had been brought up. And as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up to read. And he was handed the book of the prophet Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he found the place where it was written, The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord. Then he closed the book, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. And the eyes of all who were in the synagogue were fixed on him. And he said, today the scripture is fulfilled in your hearing, and we know all of that. Jesus spoke from Isaiah 61 about his anointing. Even when his audience didn't like what he had to say, he moved on to the next town to continue his work. So the work continues. He would not let anything drain his anointing or distract him from his mission. That's a little tidbit piece that I read here. This is a leadership Bible. He would not let anything distract him from his mission. So we are on a mission. We are on a mission. And, last year, I reflect on last year. Last year I was ready to run. I had all of these ideas, all of these things. Right before that, I had a business coach, and some of you have heard of Tiana, and all of these things that I'm doing. I was on the calendar. There were some dates set for places I was requested to sing and speak, and different things I was doing, conferences. And then I sprained my ankle in March, and I found myself not able to work, wearing a walking boot and rocking that cane for months. I had to move forward because, again, I had to make those appointments. Facing challenges, I couldn't stop. But yet God showed me time and time again how faithful he is. I went to Arizona in May, and my luggage was left on a rental car bus. Now I flew into Phoenix. I don't know if anybody's ever been to Arizona. I flew into Phoenix. From there, we had to get a car and drive a couple of hours to Nogales, Arizona, which is a border town. And over there, because, again, I said I had a business coach, and Lori can attest to this. She specializes in fabulosity. You got to be fabulous. You got to step up nowhere if the fabulous is not on. Well, that trip caused me to take a course in simplicity. A crash course. But I had my ideas. Again, and then to add, remember I had the walking boot. And I had my vision of what I should look like, makeup, all that. And that was all left behind. And I had to speak to their kids on Saturday and speak at their church service on Mother's Day. I had my fabulous Mother's Day outfit. And that got left on the bus. We get to Nogales. Now, understand, I didn't know I didn't have my luggage until we get to Nogales, and the people that were helping me counting luggage, and I'm like, where's my luggage? All I had was my bag, the purse, and thank God for my notes was in the and my track for the song. That luggage, I didn't see that luggage again until I was brought back to Phoenix Sunday night. So I had to crash course in simplicity and understand that it was not about me. Lord, it was not about me. I was just somebody who said, yes, I'll go. And so the training ground here at Overflow Christian Center, because I did need the business coaching. I did need that. And it's still such a huge component. But this training ground is crucial to help me prepare for those moments, to help me prepare for those times, because we never know, right, when we're going to be asked to go somewhere, to speak, to sing, to do whatever. We never know. And so I went to Connecticut, sang with that walking boot. And I'm bringing these things up, again, not to bring myself any type of glory or kudos or pat myself on the back. It's just that I thought it was so interesting how God was like, hey, you're going to go, but you got to go like that. Just like that. You're going to work it out. You'll be all right. Leave it there. Toronto, I went there for a protocol and diplomacy training thing and for the chaplaincy. School safety, I was in Nashville with Lady Paula and Tootsie, like Washington, D.C. Like, I went to all these places. And I'm like, and then guess what after that? I went right back to work. right back to those assignments. And I'm like, God, so what was all that for? Because, you know, you start to feel like, well, what about the momentum? Yep, that's right where you're supposed to be. Now here, come on back to this job. And because there's work there. Because it's not about me. And so the level of fear that I felt knowing that I didn't have everything I needed when I got to Arizona was something. Because it just added to, I'm going to look at these people, I've never seen them before. You know, I'm going to stand there, and they were hyping it up. You know, like when they hype you up somewhere, you better not look crazy. Like they were hyping it up, and here I come with the walking boot, none of my stuff. And okay, praise the Lord. Oh, and then my track didn't work, so I had to sing a cappella. Help me, Jesus. And there's a discipline. I think I was just like, Lord was like, yeah, that's wonderful. I know about the business coach. I know you did all that, you put all that in place. That's right, you're gonna need it. But you also need humility or something, ain't it?
Amen. That's good.
You know, and in my time with the police department, I'm trying to find Reggie with my time open. And in my time with the police department, people were offended when I got promoted to detective because some people felt I didn't deserve it. But they didn't know about the work. I said in the beginning about the oil. They didn't know about the tears, the work that I put in, the money that I put my own for these kids. They didn't know. And my thing towards the end was, and I don't have to tell you. Just like Jesus when he was like, yo, I'm out. I don't have to prove it to you. The work is there. I don't have to. Me and God, we know. Because they were even trying to push me out of that office towards the end. That was my thank you. But I was so intent on knowing that, pushing and pressing that it was not about me. At that time, and again, this is my BC days, before Christ. But it was just, I was just so mission-minded. Because I saw, you know, like when you see something works, and you're like, I know it works. So I'm going to keep doing it because it works. So to work with those young people, keep doing it. To work in the community, I'm going to keep doing it. They gave me the detective shield, and it's fabulous. You know, this is just an idea of what it looks like. You know, they gave me that, and I was like, this is wonderful. And this is my chaplaincy shield. And that's wonderful. But it's that shield of faith. It's those weapons in Ephesians 6. It's not about my guns, because I own several guns. And I know how to shoot it. They laugh at me because they say I'm like what is it? You're one of them, you won't expect it from me. But I'm a good shooter. I'm a good shot. But I practice, and we practice here, right? And we practice going out there. We practice because we're coming here. We're taking the time to come here. We're taking the time to listen. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. And I'm sure that a lot of us during the week, we practice. And so my timekeeper left the room. So I'm just going to say that I'm grateful. Amen. I'm grateful for these moments because anybody who knows me when I got to Crenshaw, Tootsie's definitely one of them. Lady Paul is somebody that knows me when I got there. You couldn't get 2 words out of me, and if it was a whisper. I still whisper. Tootsie be like, you know, talk on. But, so you couldn't get me to do any of this. You couldn't get me to believe. You couldn't get me to believe that I was fearfully and wonderfully made, that what the word said was that he was talking about me. You couldn't get me to believe that. You couldn't get me to believe that I would ever be doing anything like this. You couldn't get me to believe, because Pastor called me yesterday to give me my orders. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful even for the lack of preparation that I was able to get in this moment. Really, because it taught me something again. And it took me back to law enforcement. We weren't always ready for that moment because we didn't know it was coming, but we were prepared. We were equipped. We are equipped. We are continually being equipped for whatever it is we're doing out there. Because this is a lifestyle. This is not something we just do here, right? The ministry that we do, the things that we do when we minister to people, it's a lifestyle. In our jobs, in our buildings, it's just when we smile at people, a simple thing like that, it's a lifestyle. When we pray for them people that are trying to get at us, because we got to do that. We got to get up. We got to stop being lazy. I mentioned emerge. You have to emerge, but to emerge, you can't make too many excuses. We have to execute what we're called to. Got no time for that. Our young people, you got to get up. You got to wake up because there's work that's required of you, and we can't do it all. We're going to pass all that on to you guys, to them young ones, them little babies downstairs. It's all going to get passed on. Yeah. You got to be ready. And you are here and you are being equipped. Whether you really, you buzzing out a little bit, you whatever, you getting it. You coming, you here. And so I thank you for this time. I'm looking for pastor. I'm looking for somebody. I hope you got something out of that. Thank you so much. Right, so I will give you the 4 invitations at this time. If you do not know Jesus Christ, the